Okay, so this first video should be pretty quick, finding the area of the composite shapes. Now hopefully what you remember from Year 8 is that you can actually split this shape into two, creating a rectangle in this case, and then also creating a triangle. Now what I'm going to be concentrating on here is not teaching you how to do this, because I'm sort of assuming you can. What I want to show you is some ways to set it out, and then you can choose which you prefer. Then this is the way I prefer to do it. I like to look at the area, and I like to do it all in one line. So I use brackets to indicate each shape. So in this case, my first shape is going to be 10 by 12. And my second shape, which is my triangle, is going to be half the height. So half the height, which is 10, and times by the base. Now, as you can see, the base in this case is this little bit here. Okay, and from here to here is 12, which means from here to here is 12, leaving you with 6. So that gives you half 10 times 6. And then, now, look, depending upon your confidence, you can put that straight in your calculator and get an answer. If you're one of those people that like to do all the steps just to make sure, 5 times 6 is what, 30. It's not a bad idea to do all the steps for at least one or two questions so that you've got a good example to follow with later for when you study, so you know exactly what you did. And we're doing area, so it must be square metres. Just remember, even though we're writing m to the power of 2, a lot of people say metres squared, where it's not actually, it's 150 square metres. Now the second way of writing it is a little bit longer, but for some people it makes more sense. So there's your area 1, and I'm putting area 2 there. So area 1 is my 10 by 12. So I've done area 1, area 2 for you, and I accidentally, well, I did put brackets. Do I need to put brackets? No, I don't. And then I usually put total area, or TA, equals then a few ways you can do it. Area 1 plus area 2 equals, you can always just write the answer straight out. Obviously I try and encourage you to write as much as you can, but at times in exams you don't need to, depending upon the amount of marks that it's worth. So that's two ways of setting out when you're looking at adding them together. Just as an alternative, some of you might be thinking, well, why not make it into one large rectangle and do a rectangle that's 10 by 12 and then subtract this triangle of 6 by 10. That also is a method that you can use. Now with this next one, always stop and look and go, okay, what do I have? What do I see? You know, what information do I have? You can see triangles. Problem is a lot of people go and look at this and go, okay, I've got 4 triangles. Excuse the noisy birds in the background. But if you look at that, you might hopefully realise that in actual fact, those 2 triangles make one large triangle. Okay, just as the bottom one makes a second large triangle. So in this case, my area in actual fact is just 2 triangles. So when I go to work out my area, I've got the base. Okay, first of all, half times the height times the base, and the base is from one end to the other. So in this case, it is 6 plus 10 plus 5. So it's going to be 21. And then I've got the second area, which again is half times the height times the base, which is 21. Just for your information, can you write half times 21 times 8? So in other words, can you swap these two around? Yes, you can. Okay, because you think about it. 3 times 4 equals 12, 4 times 3 equals 12. Does not matter. As a rule, I don't care which goes first, the height or the base. In actual fact, I always choose the even number to go first, because it's easier to halve an even number than it is to halve an odd number. And you can see with this one, for example, it's easier to go half 8 is 4, 4 times 21 is going to be 84, than to sit there and go half of 21, which is 10.5 times 8 without a calculator. Okay, so I'll put those in the calculator or work them out, adding them together, and I get 210, and it's metres again, so it's square metres. Okay, and once again, you can do the other way if you want to, working out area 1, working out area 2, and setting it out like that. It's up to you. You've got to work with what works best for you. Now, once again, before you even start looking at how to do these questions, just take a second to think, what do I know? In this case, I know I have a square. I know I have another square that is creating a hole in the middle. I also know another way of thinking about it is I have 4 triangles that can be added together. So from my point of view, it could be one square minus another square, or it could be 4 triangles added together. Depends upon your measurements that you're given, and it depends upon how you see it as to what you're going to do. In my case, I prefer to, I see the 2 squares obviously, and because we've got the dimensions already given to us, in actual fact for me, it is easy to go 20 times 20 minus the 14.1 times the 14.1. And I put everything in and I end up with 201.19. Now, just on a side note and something a bit extra, something you might want to consider is, and again it's just important to realise, is that you've done 20 times 20, which of course is 20 squared. So there's no reason why you couldn't go 20 squared minus 14.1 squared. So for all those boys out there that like to write as little as possible, here's a way of doing it. And then of course you can just go straight to the answer. Okay, so once again, look at the question. What do you know? I know I've got a rectangle. Okay, I know I've got triangles, which I do have the dimensions for quite easily, 3 by 2. I know I have rectangles, and notice 2 double lines here is 2, which means these are also 2. So I know that that's 2 and that's 2, and I've been told that this is 1, so I've got 2 rectangles which are 1 by 2. So I'm thinking that it's a bit easier probably to do a whole rectangle minus the shapes. Okay, so if you have a look at my setting out here, 6 by 3 is the large rectangle. So the 6 by 3 is this shape around here. Okay, hopefully you can see that. Then the half by 3 by 2 represents the 2 triangles. But notice what I've done. Okay, I've actually done half times 3 by 2, but I've done the times 2 outside of the brackets. Now, I know a lot of you are going to sit there and say, well, why can't I just get rid of the half and get rid of the 2, knowing that 2 triangles make a rectangle? Yes, I get that. That's the argument that every kid gives me for the last 30 years. What you are doing is you are showing the marker. You understand that it is 1 triangle and that there are 2 of them. Okay, so you are clearly showing the marker or whoever that you know what you're doing. All right, just with the last one, it is a rectangle. So there's my 2 by 1, and you telling the marker that you know there are 2 of them. Okay, so I've done all the answers. Now, once again, I've put in each individual thing. So 6 by 3 is 18. There's the 2 triangles. There's the 2 rectangles. I like to do that because if there's any wrong error, so let's say, for example, you accidentally put 11 there for whatever reason, the marker can see clearly above that you actually knew what you're doing, and it was probably a typo more than anything. But the answer is 10 centimetres. Now I'm just going to rub all this stuff away, make my rubber a bit bigger. And just so you know, you could again do it as a triangle. So for example, as 2 shapes. You could do it as a triangle, 1 large triangle and a rectangle, knowing that once that this is 6, you have a height of 2, this is 1, and because this is 2 and 2, I've still got those 2's written there, and the whole thing is 6, then this has to be equal to 4. So you do actually have 6 by 2 for the triangle and 4 by 1 for the rectangle, and then add the two together. It's up to you. Okay, so this is why I often say have a look at the picture first, look at all the information, because you might find one method is quicker to do than the other.